This is one hell of a weird mouse. But just because something looks weird doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, take a look at me. I look terrible and my videos are... Okay, my videos are still terrible. I don't really know where I was going with that. But this is the ZXTech M8 wireless. And looking at it, I thought it was a real funky shape and I didn't expect to enjoy it. Well, turns out it's one of the most natural feeling gaming mice I've ever held in my hand. Starting off with the shape. I think the best way to describe this shape is office mouse. Because if you thought of a office mouse or if you drew a mouse in a cartoon, this would be what it looks like. But just because it looks Looney Tunes doesn't mean it works Looney Tunes. In practice, this very fundamental basic mouse shape actually feels really natural to hold and have in your hand. It just feels quite right. It's a shape that is very pleasant in that it doesn't force your hand into any particular weird angles or weird kind of variations. You just place your hand on it and the way your hand naturally rests on the table is the way this mouse feels. Really, it's a simple rainbow-shaped semicircle of a gaming mouse, which is probably why there's a rainbow on the box. And it has slight indentations and a slight kind of groove and slope inwards on the sides. And that's it. That's all that it has. One of the big gimmicks though with the ZXTech M8 wireless is that the click position of this is very low. Unbelievably low. 1 millimeter off the ground, they say. And technically that's true. But to achieve this, they've had to make some sacrifices, mainly making this a Apple Magic Mouse on steroids. What I mean by this is they moved the charging port from the front, where it should be on the gaming mouse, to the right side in this little recessed cubby hole right here. So you have to use the cable they provide since most cables won't fit this deep into your gaming mouse. Also, what this means is that while you can technically use this mouse plugged in, you realistically cannot, since who's gonna use a mouse with a cable coming out from the right side? Not a pleasant experience. All that though is to achieve a very low click position. The mouse arches all the way down, so when you are clicking, you really don't have to move your fingers all that much, and it just feels natural and follows the arc of your hand as it will rest on a table. But the thing is, it all is dependent on your grip. If you're palm gripping this mouse or you have a forward-leaning claw grip, shape is ideal. This low click position feels wonderful and feels excellent and feels like it was built for this mouse. But if you have a more backward-leaning kind of relaxed claw grip or you want to do, God forbid, fingertip grip on this mouse, it's not going to be as good and you're just going to be clicking this mouse from a very normal traditional position, which kind of defeats all the hassle and all the gimmicks of this shape to begin with. So if you have those grips, this mouse is kind of pointless for you and you probably can find better options elsewhere. As for the size of this mouse, it actually works pretty well for my 19cm by 10cm hands, but I do find that my forefinger and pinky finger don't really play well with this shape. Because the front of this mouse is so low with this very unique shape that's close to the table, what that means is you don't really have a lot of space to put your forefinger and your pinky, and as a result I either have to hold the mouse kind of like this with my forefinger and pinky basically parallel to the ground, or I have to hold it with my forefinger and pinky really arched, and basically most of the time it will slide down and kind of overhang a little bit, which rubs against the mouse pad with my fingernails, which isn't very comfortable or very good for aim. As a result, I'll probably say that it's not that recommended for people who want to do a forward claw grip or a palm grip for people with hands that are 19cm and bigger. However, if you have more of a relaxed claw grip that's backward leaning, 19cm and 20cm hands should still be fine, but much larger than that, this mouse is probably too small for you. Unless you want a fingertip grip, which just don't. Please. Please, I beg you. Clicks of this mouse are pretty well tensioned throughout and more balanced than I would ever be emotionally, so that's a good thing. And you can actually fingertip grip this mouse even though you shouldn't, because the clicks are very light towards the back as well. They're crisp and they're light and they basically have no pre-travel, though there is a slight bit of squishy bottom out, which you might or might not like. The scroll wheel is snappy and nice, it's rubber coated and quite light, no complaints here, and the thumb buttons are good with no pre-travel, but there is quite a bit of like that spongy bottom out, which I'm not the biggest fan of. On the bottom, you also find the 3395 sensor as well as the button which you can use to change a bunch of settings. There's also a power switch that doesn't just act as a power switch, it's kind of like a setting modes switch, which is something you find on all ZXTech mice because they don't actually ship software with their gaming mice, because you can change everything using different shortcuts and hotkeys on the mouse itself, which is really quite nice. Inside, there is a 200 mAh battery, which is decent and standard for a 55-gram gaming mouse, and a quote 75 hours of game time, though I highly doubt that that is the case. I've never pushed it that far because basically between every gaming session, I charge this gaming mouse since I don't dare run out of battery while gaming with this mouse. Whereas with other gaming mice, if you run out of battery, you just plug in the cable in the front and use normally, like a wired mouse. With this mouse, if you run out of battery, you have to plug it in into the side, and that will significantly hinder your gaming performance. So even though it has good battery life, supposedly, I wouldn't risk it, and I would just charge it between every single use since I really don't want to have to plug this mouse in the middle of a game. As for wireless performance is about expected. The measurements by many people who are reputable reviewers all indicate that this is about as fast as you expect for a wireless gaming mouse that isn't from Razer, Logitech, or Asus as far as click latency and sensor latency is considered. The implementation here of the 3395 is darn near perfect, and basically zero reviewers have had a complaint about it. But it's not all rainbows and butterflies, because this mouse does have one or two drawbacks that I'm not really the biggest fan of. One is the fact that this mouse shape is something that you really have to like. Like if you don't like this mouse shape, you absolutely are not gonna have a great time with it. The next thing is that the coating of this mouse is pretty horrendous. Like it really is super duper slippery, and the moment you have a bit of finger oils or a bit of sweaty palms, it gets extremely slippery, and you're gonna need to put some grip tape on here. Because without grip tape, this mouse is extremely hard to hold on to after a couple of hours of gaming. But apart from that though, the X35 M8 Wireless is a really excellent release. It's something that is weird and is very, very different. I have to give props to X35 for trying to create something that's interesting and special, but beyond just being special and unique, I actually feel that this shape has a lot of potential and is something that some people would really enjoy greatly, and that makes this mouse very compelling option. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.